So, have you ever stopped to wonder if this is it? If our current economic system is the final version? What if something totally different is already being built, right now, from the ground up? Today, we're diving into a fascinating new economic idea, one that's powered by blockchain technology and could totally rewrite the rules of how we work, own, and build value together.
Right now, just beneath the surface of everything, something big is happening. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's a technological revolution that's quietly taking root, and it has the potential to completely rewire our world.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why capitalism seems to be in crisis mode. Then, we'll get into the math that shows why the old models are becoming obsolete. After that, we'll meet our hero, the DAO. We'll see how it's rewriting the economic rules, how it could help build a post-corporate world, and finally, we'll talk about the big challenges still on the road ahead. Okay, so let's jump right into the core of the problem. The thing is, our big institutions, our corporations, our banks, they were all designed for an analog world. And in today's digital age, man, they are struggling to keep up. For a whole lot of people, this isn't just an economic problem. It feels personal, like a betrayal. I mean, just think back to 2008. That financial crisis wasn't just some random event. It was a massive, flashing red light. It pulled back the curtain and showed everyone that the very foundations of our corporate and financial systems were fundamentally broken. The whole architecture was way more fragile than any of us knew. And this is where the source material uses this really powerful phrase. It calls these old structures predatory architectures. It's this idea that these traditional corporate hierarchies have slowly shifted from creating value to just extracting it from their workers, from their customers, and from the planet. And look, this isn't some abstract theory. For the entire generation of digital natives who grew up online, this failure has very real, very personal consequences. We're talking about the constant anxiety of never being able to afford a house, being crushed by student debt, and working in a gig economy that often feels, well, exploitative.
So why is this all happening? Is it just a few bad actors? Well, not really. It goes deeper than that. There's a fundamental mathematical reason that the old-school corporate model is starting to become obsolete. And it all boils down to one simple thing: cost. So a classic economic theory says companies exist for one main reason. It's cheaper to organize people inside the company, with managers and HR and legal departments, than it is to find and hire people on the open market for every little task. But what if technology could make that external coordination almost free? That's exactly what the DAO model does with things like smart contracts.
And this right here is the absolute game changer. Blockchain technology is taking the costs of trust and coordination and just crushing it. It's driving it down closer and closer to zero. And when it's virtually free to collaborate with anyone, anywhere in the world, the whole economic reason for the big, clunky, expensive corporation, it just starts to melt away.
This massive economic shift basically kicks the door wide open for a completely new way to organize ourselves. And this is where we meet the main character of our story today, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, or, for short, the DAO.
Okay, so what on earth is a DAO? Well, the simplest way to think about it is like an organization that's native to the internet. It runs on rules that are written in transparent code, it's owned and managed by its members, and it's all built on a secure blockchain. There's no CEO, no board of directors calling all the shots from a corner office.
This table just lays out the difference perfectly. The traditional corporation, it's a top-down hierarchy. Decisions are made behind closed doors in a boardroom, and everything is held together by legal contracts. A DAO, on the other hand, is a flat network of contributors. Governance is totally transparent. You vote with tokens, and its authority comes directly from code that anyone can inspect.
All right, so we get the concept. It's a new kind of organization. But how does it actually work day to day? How does it really fundamentally change the way we exchange value? Okay, this is one of the wildest and coolest ideas to come out of this. DAOs make it possible to have a kind of modern, superpowered barter system. And no, we're not talking about trading goats for lumber. We're talking about the direct exchange of complex digital skills and services without ever needing old-school money to get in the middle.
So check out how this could work. Let's say a designer in Nairobi needs some code from a developer in Buenos Aires. The payment gets locked into a smart contract. Once the community, or the protocol itself, verifies the work is done, poof, the smart contract automatically releases the payment. It's fast, it's global, and you don't have to trust a random stranger on the internet. The code handles the trust for you.
Now, if you zoom out and think about what happens when you scale this idea up, the implications are just massive. We start to see the outlines of a world that could exist after the corporation. A world where instead of just being a cog in a machine, you become a direct owner and stakeholder in the projects you help build. The entire relationship between users and platforms gets completely flipped on its head.
This is the perfect example. Take the Uber model, right? The drivers create billions in value, but they don't own a single piece of the network. They're basically a resource to be used. Now, compare that to a successful DAO like Curve. The users who provide the value, in this case liquidity, are the owners. They get governance tokens, which gives them a real say and a real stake in the platform's future. It's a monumental shift from being used to being an owner.
And guess what? The real world, the world of lawyers and governments, is actually starting to catch up. For years, DAOs were just code, kind of like ghosts in the machine. But then, bam, in 2021, Wyoming passed the first ever law that gave them real, formal legal status. This is the very beginning of what some are calling blockchain constitutionalism, where code itself starts to act as a new kind of law.
Now this all sounds pretty revolutionary, right? A decentralized future. But let's be real, the road ahead is not exactly a superhighway. Before any of this can really go mainstream, there are some huge legal and regulatory mountains to climb.
And here's the first monster of a question. What is a governance token? Is it a security, like a stock? Is it something else entirely? Regulators are trying to stuff this brand new square peg into a round hole that was created 100 years ago, and it's not really working.
And then there's this problem. What about liability? If there's a bug in the code and people lose a ton of money, who's to blame? Who do you sue? In a decentralized network with no CEO, the entire idea of corporate responsibility just breaks.
It all adds up to this one huge challenge, what the source material calls the regulatory uncanny valley. We're stuck trying to apply laws that were made for a world of physical borders and centralized companies to these new, fluid, global organizations that live on the internet.
But maybe the biggest hurdle isn't even the legal stuff. Maybe the real challenge is educational. It's human. For this new economy to actually work for everyone, people need to understand how to participate in it. We need a whole new level of digital and economic literacy, and that is a massive undertaking.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The source material leaves us with this final, powerful thought. The tools to build a totally different kind of economy are already here. The revolution is being built as we speak. So the real question isn't if these systems will change the world, but who will get to write the rules for this new, decentralized future.